Dobro večer, pozdrav svima, pozdrav Bobbya, evo odmah na hrvatskom da zahvalim što si naš prvi gost. Prvo bih predstavio zapravo svima u par rečenica na hrvatskom tko si što si, pa možemo nastaviti na engleskom. Bobbya je jedna izuzetno zanimljiva priča, za svi koji prate, upoznali smo se sasvim slučajno preko nekakvih horror naslova gdje smo nastojali doći do novih naslova, novih informacija vezano za jedan projekt kojima ćemo sigurno doći u nekoj minuti streama, moći doći na tapetu. Bobbya je developer koji je sada se odlučio biti standalone developer, imati svoj generalno development studio, ima velike ciljeve koji izuzetno već dobro reflektiraju, već imamo neke pomake velike sa njegovim novim naslovom Mirror Edge i sada ćemo zapravo onako ići dosta duboko da vidimo u njegovom svijetu kako to ide, kako postati developer i kako generalno uopće preskočiti taj nivo sa igrača na developera. Obzirom da Bobbya preferira da smo na engleskom, tako da možemo biti kreativniji što se tiče izričaja. Bobbya, welcome to our first episode. Thank you. It is our honor that we have you as our first guest. I just mentioned to our audience that we actually met in a funny way. At that point, you were a developer and you were working on a totally different game. We reached out to you and told you, well, can we try the game? Can we try the game, please? And actually, you were kind enough to let us try the game that you were working on. First, just as a question for you, of course, obviously you started with gaming like all of us did. So there was a transition from a gamer to now that you're a developer with your own studio. How did your path in gaming start? With what? We all started with some console, some game. What were your paths and how did you generally start with the gaming world?
Well, firstly, I would like to say thank you to you, Tony, and everyone here who's watching the podcast. I basically started like everyone else. Here's a secret. My father's a programmer, and basically I've been raised with a computer and I've been playing those early games like on the MS-DOS, you know, Warcraft 1, yeah. Warcraft 2, and Doom and so on. And that's how I started, how I got into gaming, I might say. But also, I'm a huge fan of fantasy and I love reading books. So I love reading books a lot. And I can say that especially films, series, games, books, they inspire me to create something. I'm a creative person. Yeah. And that's how I decided like I want to start game development. And that was basically 8 years ago. I can't believe how much time flies, how fast time flies. Yeah. So yeah, 8 years ago, I was with another friend, and it was back then when I started learning 3D modeling and animation and texturing and so on in 3ds Max, ZBrush and Substance Painter and so on. And we took this ambitious, huge project, the project that we got to know each other. That's Alan Sharp. Yeah, and that's how everything started. So it was basically Alan Shop, and along the way, as we were working on Alan Shop, I also got like freelance jobs from Upwork, from Fiverr, and started working for clients like 3D modeling and so on into game development. So yeah. So
wait, you're telling me your first game ever was Alan Sharp?
Yeah, Alan Sharp was my first game ever.
No,
but also I can say that there were games that we started during the development of Alan Sharp. For example, we had a funny game which was about the COVID situation. It's called White Toilet Plague, where you go shoot people in a city and you're gathering toilet paper. If you remember, there was on the news, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, when people were fighting in stores for
gathering supplies and everything.
That was the basic idea for the game. And we finished that multiplayer game like in 2 weeks. And it was like to relax ourselves from Alan Sharp. And I can say that Alan Sharp, to be honest, I always call it like this. it's my most successful failure.
Yeah, because you learn the most from the failures. No, Alan Sharp was, as far as I'm concerned, and we've tried it, it was an amazing game, especially when you take a look at the number of persons that have been working on it, and that you were so upfront to say that, okay, we are developing this, but we are still missing the developers for certain parts of the game. But what we can see now is a trend, and you could see it by the reviews on Steam and such platforms, that psychological horrors and these horrors that are being first-person horrors are really taking over when it comes to scary games. I mean, you being in a third person, it's not that scary anymore unless you're Capcom working on remastering Resident Evil 2, not 3 when it comes to the level of horror. But definitely, why is this? Why is this? Why do you feel that psychological horrors now are something that is a trend? And what do you think that people enjoy the most in them?
Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, for the trend, I must say, yeah, you're right. There's a rising trend in horror games during this last period. Probably the ones to blame, I might say, are the streamers and the content creators. I'm not saying blame like a negative connotation, but a positive connotation, because it seems that people enjoy seeing the jump scare reactions of streamers. For example, when I was working on Mirrorforge and I was asking for feedback, I was aiming for that Silent Hill vibe, like going for the terror instead of too many jump scares. Yeah. And there were streamers who specifically told me, like, we need more jump scares because our audience loves it. So I might say it's entertaining for the audience, and that's the way why people love horror games. But for me personally, I love horror games because they tell a story, and horror games with a good story are good games. For example, Until Dawn, and there was like you mentioned, Outlast, Layers of Fear, Amnesia, and so on. So those games are my favorite.
How much do you think those kinds of opinions are generally ruining the creativity? Because what we could see now as a trend also is that a lot of people are using already given goods like Unreal Engine, like other engines that are there, and they're creating games that are just creating suspense moments with jump scares. But when you take a look at it, when you read the documents throughout the games, those are, couple of syntax mistakes, shallow story and everything. I mean, we are of course aiming that everybody's playing. I mean, we can talk about title like Resident Evil 7. Everyone knows about the scene when Mia is crawling up the stairs, even though they didn't play it at all. So do you feel that is something that is going to ruin the games as in the same way as Call of Duty drifted off in being a simulation to being press A to win kind of game? Or do you think there's still a haven for real horror lovers?
I think there will always be like place for the real games. The only thing is, for example, if we talk about the indie scene for the indie game developers, one thing I understood when I started working on Mirrorforge was a lot of indie developers see their games like, this is my baby. This is what I've dedicated so much time on to make it great, and no person should say anything bad about it. But in fact, they should see that as a business, as a product. And that's the most important bit. For example, when I was working on Alan's shop, I was like, oh my God, I'm working on a game. It's amazing. I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But for Mirrorforge, I did market research. I searched what the people like, what the market requires, what my competitors in this particular niche lack, and how I can use that to add it in my game. What players want from these new horror games. So that's how, I think, in my opinion, that's how you should approach when you're working on a game. So basically, being a game developer, especially a full-time solo game developer, is not like a lot of people say, when I say that I'm a full-time developer, they go like, oh my God, you're living your dream and so on. You're not working and I'm working like
from a programmer's perspective, right.
Yeah, I'm working for 14, 15 hours a day, to make it happen, and checking constantly with the community, engaging with other people, marketing and so on. So it's not easy. I mean, it's the same like running your own business. I mean, you know that, right?
Yeah, you need to start to put in the hours to make it happen at one point in time. What I wanted to ask you was, what were the specific, if you can tell us that you were, obviously some specific games, titles that you saw that they lack some of these things? I mean, we could definitely see that some of the AAA titles are just pulling their names just to have a better game. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Resident Evil fan, but I can definitely confirm that for Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 7 that they have gathered an audience that likes Resident Evil, even though one could argue that Resident Evil 7 would be a great standalone game, not being connected to there. But what I mean, rarely we can see that amount of work being put into all of the segments of the game. One game that is especially disputed in the last couple of years is The Last of Us 2, which is, as far as I'm concerned, and this is obviously my personal opinion, one of the best games of the last generation. But you can see all the time that they put in there into from the engine, from the sounds, from everything that you can do in game. And I wanted to ask, well, could you see the same pattern in the games that you were analyzing, that they're lacking just to push the product, just not to have this, the depth that when they're deciding, should we release so game just to be on the market, or should we postpone it for Half-Life 3 number of years to have a to have a great product? Or, I mean, is it a good thing or a bad thing? What do you feel?
Well, again, even in horror, there's like subgenres and sub-niche. For example, there are a lot of players who play walking simulators, like, I don't know, Layers of Fear or Visage, or was it Visage? I don't know how you spell that.
Yeah, I spell Visage. It sounds more French, you know.
Yeah. And then there's Outlast and there's Resident Evil, and those are like different subgenres. And if you're doing market research, you're going to focus on the audience that plays particular games. For example, in Mirrorforge, it's like a mix between Outlast and Visage, because you have creatures that will chase you, that have to run. There's also psychological moments, like when something jump scares you, like a ghost or something like that. And there's also like, I also want to add like Silent Hill vibes. For example, at the moment I'm working on an open world map, like when you're going down the town, it's foggy town and so on. So I'm appealing. Yeah, I'm appealing to the Silent Hill fans because I'm a huge fan of Silent Hill. Especially, I can say that Silent Hill at the moment, it's a great game, but it's already outdated.
It's on a downward spiral for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to blame. It's mainly, the reason mainly is because there hasn't been any new Silent Hill game, and they're getting old, and there's new technologies coming out, and that's the main reason. But like I said, when you're looking for competitors, you're gonna have to find the specific competitors that make these specific games in your subgenre. You can't focus like on the industry or on the entire genre, like horror. So horror can be psychological, survival, and so on.
Yeah, it's a little bit too broad of a subject to just try to create your own game by taking into account every possible type of the horror. But tell me, you're mentioning Silent Hill as a reference. Are you, especially with the fog part and with the actual inability of PlayStation 1 to render anything in front of 2 meters, you started also with PlayStation 1 and Silent Hill. Were you in that battle in which we all did? We had Unreal versus Quake, we had Resident Evil versus Silent Hill. So in your case, Silent Hill won, right?
Yeah, like I said, when they released Silent Hill, it was mainly due to the render not being able to render those things in the distance. That's why they used fog. But as the game progressed, you realize that this fog provides some mysticism, some mystery.
Yeah, and it created an awesome atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's creepy, you know, if you don't know what's in the mist, in the fog. And that's what I aim to do in Mirrorforge, in that open world level, and at the same time appeal to Silent Hill fans, because like I said, I'm a huge fan of Silent Hill, especially when I say about Mirrorforge that it's Silent Hill inspired, I do not mean about third-person camera or I don't know.
Pyramid heads.
Yeah, my main focus and what I most like about Silent Hill is how they develop the symbolism in the game. For example, Pyramid Head is like the guild that James Sutherland feels in Silent Hill 2. So and they reused it in the, I don't know, in the 3 and 4 because it's a popular character, right? But primarily, every single character in Silent Hill has some meaning, and that's what I aim to do with Mirror Forge. For example, in the demo, you will notice that, okay, I haven't mentioned this before. All of these levels, especially in the demo, are like the stages of grief, of sadness, like denial and so on. The stage. And every single character you meet in the game is some
representation
kind of metaphor or symbolism of the inner turmoil of the main character. So that's what I aim to do, like to create a deep narrative, a deep story. And one thing which I was very surprised, I did not expect like to be like that, was I was watching a streamer playing Mirror Forge, and maybe I will spoil this if I tell it to you. Have you played the demo? You haven't yet.
I played the demo, but I didn't stream it. We're going to stream it after this, so...
Okay, so
you can give us some hints for later.
Yeah, so there was a part, like, I just made it like that because it seemed interesting for the story. It was driving the story forward, but they pulled out like a message out of it, like, don't drink when you're driving. And I was like, okay, that wasn't my plan, but
okay. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you got me thinking there when you said, well, Silent Hill cannot now do some wonder to produce a new Silent Hill that would be something that we haven't seen before. I mean, yes, they can do something in terms of a remaster, in terms of better graphics, but I would say that the entire genre is now, I would say, technique-wise closed for expansion, because you have this sort of a gameplay, you know what you can do. Yeah, you can expand the story, you can expand graphics a little bit, use new engine, maybe use a couple of new techniques inside of a game. But then again, we could see with some titles, if you introduce a new technique into an old game, it maybe ruins the entire feeling of it. So this is why we have a lot of remasters going on in the last couple of years, with namely Resident Evil 2 remaster taking over everything, Resident Evil 3 remaster being disputable. But what do you think about this? I mean, are these remasters that are coming on the market just a great marketing plan, knowing, okay, people that have played these games when they were kids, they're now 30-ish, they have enough money to buy the games, and they're giving us all of these games that are remastered and in parallel with the era when we played them. So something like, or is this due to the lack of the possibilities with some of the titles? Because I think we can both agree that some of the titles, if they were to be brought to this new age, to MMO, to God forbid Battle Royale, Resident Evil, or Silent Hill, they wouldn't work. So I wanted to hear your opinion on it.
Well, I think that regarding the remasters, we can also see it even in Hollywood movies. They are doing remasters of popular movies. I think that the reason is due to capitalism, to be honest. Yeah. They're popular franchises. A lot of people know them. They know that if they will play safe and earn a lot of money, that's why they do that. And at the moment, if you can see in the gaming industry, Blizzard has quite some issues. There was some issues with Ubisoft and so on. And at the moment, this is the best time for the indie industry to flourish.
Yeah,
a lot of gamers have turned to the indie industry and started playing a lot of indie games, and like they're over their head with AAA games and so on, because they're doing everything the same. Like my brother, he's also a first-person shooter player, and he's playing like some, I don't know, he played Call of Duty, then he played another Call of Duty, and I was like, what's the difference? They're basically the same. There's nothing different here.
Nothing. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'm playing every Call of Duty, and I'm aware that there's nothing there for me. I mean, it's all the same. Even the engine is the same when the engine changes. But this is, I believe that, I mean, I'm looking at it from a perspective of a buyer. I'm also more inclined to buy a game from an indie developer, because I know the amount of work they input in the game was really true work and nothing that was pushed with the contracts and everything. When you see that the Activision need to have 3 studios to keep up with the agreements and everything, you could see that the games are being recycled, that the games are the same every year. I mean, with the Call of Duty, you have so unfortunately so many wars to depict in a game. But when you're doing FIFA titles, NHL titles, I mean, what can you do about it? And this is definitely a trend now. I mean, I could see it even with us here. I mean, in our community, when we were, for example, 14, 15, you were never playing some games that nobody knew about. You were always playing, at that point, AAA games. You were playing only the best titles. You were never aiming to play something in terms of rally driving, except for Colin McRae at that time, because you were exiled from the society if you were playing something else. Yeah. And now you can majorly see that the people are playing either free-to-play titles, and they're okay with those kind of titles having bugs, having mistakes, because you know that people are working on it, or some indie indie developer products, which you can automatically see that there is a communication with the community, which is extremely important. I mean, we can all agree that the worst thing that you can do is you pay something for 60 euros, you send them an email, or you contact them any way that is provided to you, and you actually don't have any possibility to get a response, and you spend, 60 euros on it.
Basically, McDonald's customer support.
Yeah, McDonald's customer support, and you're hoping that you're not going to get auto-generated response with it, and unfortunately, it is so. I mean, some of these games, when you see that they are investing in the development, when they're adding levels, when they're adding content, I mean, you could see, I shouldn't say CD Projekt Red, but Witcher 3 as a product is something that is a phenomenal blueprint of adding content every time, building on a game, listening to the community. But
the amazing thing with CD Projekt Red is that it's an indie studio, you know.
I can read from your lips, Cyberpunk.
I'm not gonna go too much into Cyberpunk because probably from what I've read, it's about their shareholders that did something and forced them to release the game. And again, that game was quite ambitious, to be honest. There were a lot of things that could be done. And not everyone, for example, like you mentioned, indie developers dedicate a lot of time and effort in their games, but you know that, but not a lot of people know that thing. For example, I've talked with a lot of other players, not developers, players, and they have no idea how game development works, how hard it is, what you need to do, and so on. They just care for the product. Like they don't care if you're 1 man or 2 men or
I bought a thing from a studio. I'm expecting something for my price.
Yeah. Basically, for example, if you're going to buy any product in the store, you don't care who did it. You just want the product to work for you. Yeah. So that's the hardest part. But I can say, like, if you follow me on my social profiles, I also share content about game marketing and game development to help indie developers. And when they ask me what is the first thing you would say to a person who wants to be a game developer, the first thing I always say is not programming, not modeling, start with marketing. Always start with marketing. And when I mean marketing, is not how to market your game, but like I mentioned previously, do the research, find your competitors, find what the audience wants. You're not making the game for yourself, you're making the game for the people. So that's like the most important thing, and engaging with your audience, of course. And then you can start the other skills like programming and modeling and so on.
I mean, we all saw that through the power of trailers and everything, as game can be literally bought. When you see the first video, you see even the sound can get you to buy something because it is so good. But this is definitely something that is our first glance, as the same as in relationships. You first see someone, then you try to analyze a person and everything. So I believe that the same thing as in a game. But now on the topic of something that interests me extremely is, I mean, I'm a programmer. I'm a programmer for web applications, enterprise systems, but I've never went into gaming. I actually have a friend of mine that is programming probably a couple of years more than I do in the same niche, tourism and everything. And we actually were talking about him switching to game development. He switched to game development, and it actually worked fine. So he was able to migrate. Now, from the programming standpoint, for the IT people, what were some? You said you were programming from since you remember, or at least your father was always there as a programmer, so you're familiar with the programming. What are the things, if any, from the programming that you could carry into ideas that you have now with the Unreal Engine and everything? Or was this something that, I have everything in the IDE, your for loops don't interest me at all, I'm able to work on everything without... I'm interested in that so much.
Actually, to be honest, I'm not a programmer. I just started learning from, how do I say this? When I was in high school, I finished programming, and I learned some basic stuff. But I wasn't quite interested into that because I'm more of an artist, a 3D artist and sculpting. But when I started being a solo developer, I realized that I need this to succeed. So that's how I started learning. Unreal is working with C++. But you also have visual scripting, which is blueprints, and you can use that. The most important thing is to try a few things with the libraries, get to know the names and so on. If you know the basics, like, I don't know, the variables, the logic and so on, it won't be much hard. But I would like to say a huge thank you to my brother, who's a great programmer. He works as a programmer in a company, and whenever I get stuck, I always call him, like, I don't know, why is this working? He's like, you got an infinite loop there.
Sounds like a problem, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to ask, because I know when I talk to my students, that when you ask them, they're all, of course, interested into, I want to build a game. Of course, there are players, everyone is playing either Warzone or Dota or any game that is on the market now, Lost Ark, which is now a #1 thing on Steam. But each one of them is asking, well, what do I need to know in order to go to become a game programmer? And yes, you see frameworks, you see C#, but this is something that I wanted to ask you. Was there any need for you to carry the basic programming knowledge into this, or are things so available right now in terms of the libraries, in terms of everything, that you could actually handle it by yourself? I mean, I can assume, so correct me if I'm wrong, if you decided to become a developer on your own, all of the other things that you are, I shouldn't say missing, but you are not as great as an artist, are available to you, or am I wrong?
Basically, nowadays everything's available on the internet. You got Stack Overflow, you got YouTube and Udemy and so on. So there was a smart saying by another developer, I can't remember his name, who said, today everything's invented, and it's no longer like who's best in C++ or C#. It's like who has the best idea.
Yeah.
Like the best innovation. And I think there are things that help me in game development, like the programming part, from what I've learned earlier, but there are also some things which you will need to learn. For example, since I'm using Unreal, there are Unreal specific terms which you will need to learn, and it's, as you know, object-oriented programming. And for your students, if they're wondering about game development, it's how do I say, a lot of niches, a lot of branches inside, and you need to learn a lot. It's not just about the programming. You got the modeling. Game design itself has a lot of things inside game design. For example, you will need to know how to make the level intuitive for the player. For example, nowadays, players don't have so much focus like in the early days, like in the 90s and 2000. If you make something too hard or too easy, you will get bored. You need to find the perfect middle, and that's very hard unless you've worked before and you know stuff, how stuff works, how people think, how players think. There are a lot of things. You also have sounds. If you have a story, of course you have to find someone who's going to write a great story, find the voice actors. So for the programming part, it's mostly about the Unreal provides you like most of the tools. You just dive, and you need to know the logic to do that. Do that all. Like it just gives you the tools. You need to know programming in order to do it. And when we're talking about, like you mentioned, GTA, I don't know, Call of Duty or Battlefield and so on, those are quite heavy games, and not to mention optimization. That's the word I hate. That's the word I hate.
They hate it too, obviously, judging by the old title.
And optimization is the most important thing in game development. And no matter how good your game is, and how great assets you have, or how good your programming is, or the systems, or how interesting they are, if the game is lagging, it drops FPS, or if it's a multiplayer, it causes too much lag, players will immediately refund it. And that's why it's very important to know all sorts of things to make it succeed. And that's why it's hard to be like oops, sorry, didn't
No worries.
hit my microphone.
No worries.
That's why it's hard. Like you need to know a lot of stuff in order to succeed.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting question that I was talking with other developers. Is if you remember when we were, there was always this bell, you know, in between elementary school where you had, well, this game Medal of Honor looks amazing on PlayStation 1, and somebody will say, well, you know, I have Voodoo 2 graphic card, it doesn't look that good when you compare it to something. But you could see a trend when we already came close to that level that the console games looked okay. I shouldn't say looked perfect because I'm a PC gamer primarily, but I would say they looked good, especially with PlayStation 4. I mean, of course, talking about the titles like Uncharted, God of War, that are really pushing the limits. Now with PlayStation 5, also with New Horizon coming out this Friday, I mean, what we could see as a pattern is that a lot of games, which obviously made an impact on hardware development also, were primarily created for consoles with limited hardware, optimized for limited hardware, and then you can play it on not that great computer. Because if you remember the times when we were playing Max Payne 1, Mafia 1, for each new AAA title, you were probably needing to add additional 128 megabytes of random access memory, a little bit better CPU. Nowadays, I mean, the games that you cannot play maxed out with RTX and everything up to the max are what? Battlefield. So all the games that have their specific versions for PC. So do you feel that this kind of situation is actually limiting what PC games could do? I mean, if you were to use the potential of the hardware that there is today, considering that a lot of games are primarily created on consoles, which always have a couple of years back hardware, and then just, okay, let's see it with a little bit better resolution on PC.
No, I don't think so. There are still a lot of games on the PC, but just the main thing is for console, for PlayStation, Sony usually buys exclusives because they make a lot of money, and that's why they get the exclusive. But there are also a lot of games like the Eternal game, Star Citizen.
Yeah, the Eternal game. Yeah.
It has amazing graphics. You know, if you can see it, it's on PC. It's a great game.
It looks amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still games like that. There's no limit like if they do it on consoles. But from a marketing perspective, I haven't mentioned this, but 3 years ago I also took marketing courses because I was planning on going in solo indie dev. I needed marketing, and I took 3 certified courses, and I did some research, and it turns out that mobile is the industry where people most play games, which is, again, obvious. If you're in a train or if you're in a bus, you will open any game. They do not consider like passion gamers, just everyone who opens a game. So that's why mobile is the most crowded market with gamers, with players, basically. Then the second is the PlayStation, and what I found strange was that there are least people on PC, and it's very strange.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I kind of figured it out. I had a professor that was from the US, and he was, strangely enough, he was a little bit older than I was when I was a student, and I remember that he strictly told me that he's not playing games. He was never interested in playing games, and after a couple of beers with him, he told me, well, yeah, something in the line of, yeah, and then my friends and I, we ran an Xbox 360, started playing. I told him, well, didn't you say you didn't play games? No, but everyone in our household has an Xbox 360. You have to have FIFA, Madden. So it's, you know, I'm not a gamer, but yes, I do have Call of Duty and everything, you know, when the family comes here. So we also had a teacher that was, I think, I'm not gonna pronounce her name wrong or say the role that she was playing, but she was in EA while Gears of War 1 was being developed. And when we asked her about Battlefield 3, if you remember that Battlefield 3 had that Firefox plugin to run the game on PC and ran every fifth time if you're lucky, we asked her something in a sort of, oh, what the hell, come on. she told us like, what PC market? What do you mean? I mean, the number of players playing on consoles is 5 times bigger. I mean, we're not that interested in PC market because it's a smaller market, and that was the first wow effect that I had on generally people playing on consoles. And nowadays, when you see the streamers and everyone playing Warzone on console, is something crazy to see when you compare it with the times when you were playing Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare 1, etc.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a PC player too. I play a lot of like you mentioned, I play a lot of Call of Duty games. There was a new battle royale game, Super People, something like that from Korea. I have no idea. I've tried that one. It was also an amazing game. I love like shooter multiplayer games, but I've never tried any game on console. I love Silent Hill because I've watched it. I've played it and a friend of mine. I did some how do I call them, emulation on PC to try to play a PlayStation game. So I did something like that, but I've never like had a passion to buy PlayStation or Xbox, primarily because, like I've mentioned, those are gaming consoles. You can only do gaming. And I was thinking like, should I buy PlayStation or buy a new graphic card for a PC where I can play games, watch movies, work in Photoshop, and so on.
Yeah.
And I went with the PC, right?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was some era where everyone was dreading going to the consoles. But now when you see it, I mean, I was always a PC guy, but I think I almost gave up on PC because I was the one that will always buy Call of Duty. I know it's refurbished. I know it's everything that there is, but I always buy it for PC. And I believe it was Cold War. Every single patch that there was after every season, if any of the contents that has been loaded into the map, being a new weapon, being a skin, your entire game crashed for a week and a half after every season. And
that's bad.
Yeah, and I just said, okay, well, maybe it's, cross-platform problem. And I called my best friend, well, the game is not working. What game is not working? The game is working perfectly. Of course, he was on console. And then there was a discount. I bought it on PlayStation 5, and you can guess whether there were any mistakes, any downtimes, any problems. No, not at all. So this is something that kind of frustrates me because they are even fixing the games and assigning the studios per market, which is, if you put it like you said it, I mean, it's a business. You're aiming to get the best of it. So by a couple of minutes back, I assume that Mirror Forge is not going to see the light on any of the consoles, not even if requested by the audience.
And actually, no, I was thinking of porting it to consoles, but I'm going to have to buy a PlayStation first. Yeah. So there are several things I will need to address, like when the revenue starts coming in. So the first money I always want to spend on localization, because I want to spend it on 12 most used languages on Steam, and that will cost, since Mirror Forge is story-driven game, it's going to probably cost around $4,000.
Are we talking about text or text plus voice?
Only text. Only text. So that will be the UI, the subtitles, the main menu. It will be $4,000. I've talked with another developer who has much less text than Mirror Forge in his game, and he told me that he paid like $2,500, and that's way too much. Yeah. So localization will be the first thing I'm going to do. I plan on doing controller support, so you can play with a controller on PC. And if the revenue continues coming in, then I will buy PlayStation, because you will need to have developer license from Sony. So if they don't approve it, you can't work on like porting it to that console. So yeah, I would love to port it to consoles, but it's just that it's still early to tell. There's a long way to go.
Yeah, you need to see the feedback and everything, and whether it's going to be looked for on the consoles, etc. So, well, the question that I was always interested in, I mean, I'm a Steam user for, I don't know, since it was not this kind of number one service for gaming. I mean, I believe I used it to install first Half-Life or something like that. But the thing that I never encountered, I mean, I've published enterprise applications and everything, but I've never published a game on Steam. I mean, for me, I mean, even when I met you, when I saw that your game is on Steam and not somewhere as an exe file for me to install, my first opinion was, okay, these guys made it. I mean, they're on Steam. Come on. I mean, their game is searchable. So can you, I mean, what you can share, can you tell me what is the procedure of your game being accepted on Steam? What do you need to do? What are some things that you need to be aware of? Is it something similar to posting your app on iStore with the validation, with everything? And then we'll talk about the commission that the Steam takes, if we may.
I can tell you everything. Just I don't want to disappoint you. I see you have such high opinions of Steam.
No more. You still are doing an amazing job. You have a background of your own game. Come on, that's an achievement by itself. So don't worry about it.
I mean, like everyone can upload on Steam. Even if you have a game, you can upload on Steam. There's nothing like to review or anything. I can say it like this: they will review your build, but they will search if it starts or not, if it's working or not, and that depends again back when you're packaging it into Unreal or Unity. You're doing the packaging. You check the message log. If any errors pop up, you're gonna have to fix them in the code and so on. Or maybe sometimes, for example, for Alan Sharp, I remember I forgot to tick that. What was it called for the Windows? Microsoft Net Framework, something like that.
.NET Framework, yeah.
Yeah, so those files which are necessary for the game to run, but it's basically very simple. If you have the game good, like if you don't have any bugs during packaging, Unreal Unity exports it to exe file. Then you download the Steam GUI, GUI, yeah, which is like their own, how do I say it?
Uploader.
Yeah, uploader, something like that, yeah. And then you go to Steamworks, which is partner to Steam. You have to create an account, have to add like bank account. You can't do like, for example, with PayPal or Pioneer. You need to have your own bank account.
Validated data and everything.
Yeah, everything like that. And when you create the game, you're gonna have to pay $100 one-time fee for entering
publishing it, okay.
Yeah, but the good thing is you're paying those $100 not for the game, for the account. You can have as many games as you like.
Oh, really?
You're paying one time.
Yeah,
the only bad thing here is the negative side is Steam takes 30% of every sale you do, and then you have also taxes in your own country.
Oh my god.
And yeah, that's the main problem here. So they take like 30% of the sales. For example, if you make like $100,000, it's 30%, so then you have taxes in your own country, and that's the bad thing I can say. But other than that, everything else is quite simple. They will just check, okay, is it running? Yep, it's running. Okay, you're good to go. It's on Steam.
Oh, nice. I mean, I believe that has changed over the years. Maybe it was, maybe it was the same for all of these years, but I always found it as, a successful gaming product if you're on Steam. So this is what I want. I mean, I heard also about this 30% commission and everything, but I wanted to ask whether the prices that you put out for games are something that you can dictate in its entirety?
Yeah,
or is definitely. It something that is dictated by, so it is your own decision to say that the Mirror Forge can be 500 euros and you're going to see your own results of not being sold because they're expecting a little bit more for 500 euros. So you're the one. And what about the discounts? Are those in the agreement so they can give the discounts? If you're on a holiday sale, do you apply for these?
Yeah, you apply for those. You can create those discounts. So Steam just keeps the game on their platform. Everything else is up to you, including the price. You can have like, I want my game to be, I don't know, $40. I'm gonna set it to $40. The main thing is, again, and there's a common misconception, especially among beginner indie developers. They think that I'm gonna put my game on Steam and Steam will market it. Nope, Steam doesn't give a
flying duck. Yeah.
Yeah. So you put it on Steam and every marketing is up to you. So basically Steam is like, how do I say it? Like if you put your game on GitHub, except the only difference is it has like some connection with if you need to have a good SEO, search engine optimization. Yeah, so when you add those tags on the game, it will show up in games more like this. So for example, if you make a game similar to Devour, you have the similar like tags like Devour. When people who play Devour and they scroll down, they will see in the section more like this.
Because you played the game like this, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the way the algorithm works.
Yeah, how much does an actual website help a game? I mean, I don't remember myself ever going to some, base website of a game unless I'm interested in the release date or something like this. Even now with Google automatically giving me the info, how much does that help in terms of marketing in comparison to all the social networks that we have today? I mean, people are jumping on TikTok and the reaches are insane in comparison to these social networks for us older guys in Facebook and something.
Okay, now we're diving into the marketing territory. So yeah, from a marketing perspective, website helps a lot. Yeah, people don't go on a website like they go directly to Steam or social media. But the thing is, on social media, you will see the game and forget about it because there's a lot more content. But for MirrorForce, for example, if you check my website, I also have like a contact form, which is connected to Google Analytics, which is connected to MailerLite and so on, where I ask people like, previously, now it's over. Previously, I had like a closed demo of the game, and it was like beta demo, and I asked people to participate along with me in the creative process. And like, you leave me your email, I'm gonna give you like an access to the closed demo, so you can provide me ideas, feedback, suggestions, so on. So they give me the email, I give them like also 4K wallpapers, soundtrack, and so on in return. And I'm going to go into marketing now. You're going to nurture this relationship.
Please do.
Yeah, you're going to nurture this relationship. You're going to talk with them, send newsletter, some content of value, which is quite cool for them. Be friendly with them, like they're as if they're your friends, basically. Because you know what's the difference in social media? It's like I will say social media is good for shouting, like, "Hey, I have a game. Check out my game," and so on.
Yeah.
But email is more personalized. It's like one-on-one communication. And it needs to feel more personalized. And according to every single statistic and survey I found about email marketing, it says that 94% of those emails will convert to sales. So that's why you need to have a website. I'm always more for email marketing than Steam wishlists. Why is that? Because for email marketing, like I mentioned, it's 94% for the sales. You continually nurture this. Yeah, you continually nurture this relationship, like you said, newsletter every week and so on. And wishlists work in a way like they wishlist a game, and before the game comes out, Steam will gonna send an email like this game is coming out, and like it passed like, I don't know, 6-7 months, you've passed 100 games, you will no longer care about that game.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you click on everything on Steam and
it will be just like another game. And if they're in your email list, you will talk with them on a weekly basis, send some special content that you don't send on social media, something to make them feel special, appreciated, people who will work in the development with you, like provide suggestions and ideas, like I mentioned. And they are more likely to become your customers, your players, than people on social media, like who see the game for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving them actually an ability to mold the game by their feedback, by their liking, and this is something that you finally get as an end product. I mean, we're all now venturing into these, community-driven developments because we feel frustrated when something is. We as gamers are frustrated when you're only delivered something, or I mean, for the Call of Duty franchise and all of these big franchises that are coming in on a yearly basis. I mean, some of these things that are fairly obvious that have been repeating for over the years, when you see that they don't care, it is something where you say, okay, well, I'm switching to Battlefield this year, and then there's a disaster called Battlefield 2024, and then it's okay, maybe I'm playing Call of Duty again. But, the feeling of not being able to communicate with them, of course, we as individual players, we're not going to say, well, can you rename Call of Duty to Call of Booty? It sounds better. Of course, they're not going to listen to you. But I mean, if there are some things that are being repeated, I would pay a lot of money to have a game that has a start of something that I would like, that has a direction going towards something I like, and come on, if I can mold it a little bit and use at least a small portion of a magic wand to say, okay, well, what about this game having this? This is something that I believe it is a next level thing to do when it comes to marketing, because we feel that we are involved with the entire development process.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a few events that happened with me for the MystiveDev demo. The hardest thing is not every player has the same opinion about the game. Like everyone has something different to add, and in the end, it might turn out to be chaotic. So for MystiveDev, I got a lot of feedback, suggestions.
Okay.
Some of them asked, like, can we have shooting in the game? The other player asked, like, the most strange feedback I got was there was a player who said in the first version of the demo, like, you need to add icons on the interactable items so I should know that this door is openable. And I was like, man, that's why it's called a door, to open. If it's closed, it will just jam, you know. And I can say that, how I say this, you can't please everyone. And the hardest thing is to find the perfect middle, you know, to find a perfect middle. So most of them will be pleased, not everyone, but most of them will be pleased. And
I mean, as in everything in life, you cannot please everyone. I mean, I can immediately see when I'm talking to younger generations with my students, I can see them. They're used to games that, as you said, if there's no indicator on the action indicator on the doors, these doors are just there to, you know, so there's no
like
hole
models.
there. Yeah, it's a model that doesn't do absolutely anything unless it is highlighted. There's something to it. There is a, you know, menu for you to press something, press square to win or something like that. So this is something that is that is a thing of a new generation, because if we remember older games, I mean, if you remember the first Tomb Raiders, what you were actually looking for was anti-aliased portion of a stone. Oh, this is where I climbed. Now, if you don't see, you know, an actual button with a sequence, with everything, this is something that our generations are not aiming at, and the new generations are not aiming at.
That's the hardest part, you know. The new generations are used to some, how do I say it, different way of gaming. For example, if you remember in the 90s, there was, or 2000 probably, it was this game called Siberia. Yeah. And that game, the game just puts you in a room and it doesn't tell you anything. You're gonna have to find it out yourself. If you do a similar game today, the player will quit it in the first 15 minutes and refund it immediately.
Absolutely.
So we had the similar issue with Alan Sharp back then. Like, we always marketed that game like it's a detective game. You need to do investigation, feel like a true detective. And in the end, it turned out we're going to have to highlight everything because the people and players were so frustrated. They couldn't find anything and they got bored easily. And that's why you need to add like those icons. But I guess, like you said, it's a trait of the new generation.
Yeah, I mean, even when we played Alan Sharp, and I'm a mixture of both. I started playing in late 90s, I would say, and I'm still playing today. But what I've been playing for the last couple of years were, you know, Resident Evil titles, Uncharted titles, and even Last of Us titles that, if, as you said it, if there's no action icon above an item, this is something that you should not be even interacting with, right? And when I jumped to Alan Sharp with a couple of my friends that love horrors, and shout out to Vinko at this point because he's my spiritual guide through these horror games, we were always in that situation. You know, I'm expecting, oh, okay, I know from every Resident Evil title I should read things carefully. I should write them on the paper. This is the thing that I like. You know, when I have it written in the notepad in game, it's some, come on. But when I have to write it on the paper, it's something that excited me, you know. But at one point, I was also just passing through the doors, passing by the items that didn't have a highlight on it, because unfortunately we got used to it. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It is debatable, but this is something that is unfortunately a standard today, which generally, as far as I'm concerned, kill the graphical improvements in some of the games. I mean, some of the first-person shooters were always, they had graphical highlights and everything, but when I see in the new Far Cry that uses phenomenal engine for the visual appeal, and when I see the dropped gun being highlighted, glowing, I mean,
Yeah.
why did you create such an engine? Just use a Fortnite engine, which is colorful, and then let, shiny golden gun shine through the entire game. And, well,
Yeah. Well, Fortnite is using Unreal Engine.
yeah, I mean, a version of it. A version of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's the trait of the new generation. There's also one other thing I noticed. It's not related to gaming, but it's mostly related to fast life, too much information. We are like bombarded, and the scariest thing I might say is this, from what I read from marketing, is that people nowadays have like 7 or 6, I'm not really sure, seconds of focus. So there was like a marketing stuff I read, and it said like our attention span is at the moment in 2022 is less than the one of a goldfish, and that's very scary,
Yeah.
I mean, we are on top of the chain. We are humans, and we have less attention span than a goldfish. That's very scary. What happened to society, and that reflects on everything, including game development. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I started to notice that on myself also, even though that I'm aware, of the flow of the information. So if you just have your phone off, you're freer for 70%. But
yeah,
I also tend to notice when I'm playing games that if I see an animation, or I need to read 4 pages of something, I know that this is something of my interest. I know that this is something that somebody actually invested some time. Maybe it's a great story, but I just don't want to read it. And this is why people are going, unfortunately, more and more towards these games that are, instant pleasure. It's same as the food. If you'd like to cook something healthy, you need to spend some time to cook it to get some of the excitement about it. But if you order McDonald's, well, it's there at your doors. It doesn't matter that it's not healthy. What I wanted to ask you, because I mean, this is something that's definitely, or you have probably discussed with, I shouldn't say with others in the team, but yourself. How do you feel about VR? I mean, on Steam and on games, I believe that at least 80% of the videos where people are playing VR, they're playing games like Mirror Forge, like Resident Evil, like Layers of Fear, like I played Blair Witch VR the other day. I wanted to check Simpsons after that. I mean, the cartoon after that. So what do you think about VR now? How scalable is graphics that we have in Unreal today on a PC that you need to downgrade in order to run on VR? Not the latest Oculus, but generally. And of course, the question is, Mirror Forge ever going to see a VR version of?
About VR, I'm not really sure, to be honest. About Mirror Forge, I've tried VR only once. I was with my girlfriend in Greece. We were on vacation. There was an opportunity to try VR, and I can say I got sick of probably. I can't blame the VR, but I can blame probably the game, the application that was there. But to have a game in VR is basically like the game needs to be rendered twice instead of once, and that's a lot of performance. The game needs to be either a lot optimized as much as possible, or the textures need to be lowered and processing power and so on. But I see VR as a growing market, growing trend, and it will become better in the future. It's just not there yet. There's still a lot of improvements. It needs to become like better in performing and so on. But I can see it in the future like a good trend. It will never replace like PC or I don't know, or PlayStation and so on. But I can say that I see it somewhere on the top in the future, probably in the next 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, this is something that I wanted to ask you, Phil, that it will ever substitute the keyboard and mouse and gamepad, and I also feel it won't, because I mean, when you are playing in VR, you are physically active, you're doing something. So either I'm sitting and playing a game, or if I want to be physically active, I'll go outside. So, but what I personally believe that could be a benefit of it, when I mean, once that we have this modeling being more readily available and VR is being a little bit more acceptable price-wise for everyone, I mean, if you're doing sales online, if you're buying something on eBay, if we were just able to use VR and, you know, see the object, see the size of it, it would be a great upsell in that sort. But me personally, I mean, I can see the VR succeeding experience-wise. So all of these museums, I'm not sure if you saw on PlayStation, you're able to see Chernobyl and stuff, which is amazing, Titanic, etc. But games, I don't know. I tried Resident Evil 7, and it was a little bit too much. It was a little bit too much. I would say. I mean, looks great, but would I spend 7 hours there? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, there was like an experimental suit they were working on in the USA, like a suit where you can feel the bullets, you know, something like that.
Nice.
And I was like, no, I'm not
do you know
changing my
how
keyboard.
bad my Call of Duty skills are? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were testing with everything. I think they were testing with some suit that was actually not a suit, but combination of, you know, boiler and everything. And they even tried something where you had some rubber around your waist so it can detect when you're sitting down or standing. And of course, there was a treadmill there, and you could play the entire Grand Theft Auto experience. But, you know, if you need to have a concert hall in order to play it, I think until you get something like full Kinect with everything, it is. I don't see it replacing that commodity of you playing a game in front of your computer. I mean, otherwise you go out and play paintball or play airsoft or play something like that, which is going to.
However, the VR for horror games, it's a completely new experience. I mean, I watch a lot of horror movies. I've seen them like almost all, starting from, I don't know, The Exorcist in the beginning up until now. I've worked on games. I've read horror books too. Like I'm more interested not in the horror. I'm not such a believer that demons exist or anything like that. But I'm interested in the creative part. And how do I say this? I will never play horror game in a VR. I will never put like VR and play a horror game. No, even though I've watched everything, I've seen it all.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I mean, I also like horror movies. I can't say that I've seen them all, but yeah, I do enjoy them. I enjoy scary games, but there's something special about playing them in VR, and you don't want to be there. You don't, as you said, you don't believe in demons. You don't believe in those things. But when you see those environments, you don't want to be there. I tried the latest Blair Witch in VR. You know, it starts mildly. You know, you're petting the dog. But the first sound of the witch, I was okay. This is not for me. I'm going out. I'm watching a couple of cartoons. I don't care. So I mean, it's a good trend. But you know, it would be a good show off as a Mirror Forge demo. You know, here's the level, here's the atmosphere. But me personally, would I play the entire game? Well, no.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, if something jump scares you in VR, you'll probably break something in your home.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll either fall or push something. So that's why I don't like VR too much.
Yeah, me neither. Even though I must say that, you know, as in everything, when they say there are levels to that game, when I saw Half-Life Alyx in VR, it is a totally different experience. I had the same experience as you with VR, with racing games and everything. I would get nausea immediately. I would need to either sit down. I tried to play, I think it was Ride on PlayStation 4 or something like that. Of course, I hit the curb with the car turned over. I was so sweaty in a minute of driving with nausea, with everything. I just said, okay, this is not for me. But when I tried to enter the City 17 with the latest Oculus Rift and Half-Life Alyx, it's something else. It's really something else.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're evolved. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, they know where they're going towards, and definitely, you know, with the Half-Life 3 being delayed inevitably, it is a good thing that they are now able to display their source engine into something which is nowadays entirely different in VR, and it's acceptable graphics today. I mean, source engine today, even today, looks amazing. I mean, in some of the games, especially Half-Life and I mean, not in Counter-Strike, because they also went there with, you know, the younger generations with highlighting of the guns and everything, but this is something that the Source engine by itself looks amazing. So are you going to switch to Source Engine 3 whenever it comes out?
I can say for the engines, I'm in love with Unreal Engine. I've considered switching MirrorForge to Unreal Engine 5. I don't know if you've seen what they offer in Unreal Engine 5, but I was afraid that some things might be too different, like the interface and the tools. I haven't tried it yet, and I won't be able to complete the game. It's not like when I work back on Alan's shop, I'm gonna do this game for 6 years. I set up a date. I'm gonna have to release this game by September. So time management, and if I change the tools, it's gonna take me a lot of time to learn it.
Yeah.
To see if this code is working, because every time I remember from my experience back with Alan's shop, every time we did an update for Unreal, there was some code that wasn't working anymore. Like they would change it.
Backward compatibility wasn't there. So
yeah.
And I may imagine changing the large versions would give you enough work to postpone it for another year or so.
Yeah.
So, but with the date that you actually mentioned, what is the wanted release date for MirrorForge?
So let me explain about this, because a lot of people ask me, even streamers. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to everyone who played MirrorForge. I wasn't expecting that much attention and publicity and such positive feedback from all the people. It's like a lot of streamers played it in just a few days. Not to mention that the festival, the Steam Festival MirrorForge is on the 21st. Still hasn't started yet, and already a lot of people played it, you know.
Nice.
And I can say this: we surpassed 2,000 wish lists.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That has never happened before, you know.
How many were they on Alan Sharp, if it's not a secret?
No, it's not a secret. Alan Sharp had like 3,000 wish lists, but that's after the festival.
Yeah.
And MirrorForge has like 2,000 wish lists before the festival.
So just based on the demo.
Yeah, just based on the demo and previous marketing I did when I started MirrorForge up until now.
Yeah, I saw a lot of YouTube videos, because when I was investigating, I wanted to see, okay, where's the trailer? Then I saw, well, oh, I'm not the first one playing this. So
yeah, there are a lot. Yeah, YouTube, and there's even more on Twitch. There was one guy on Facebook Gaming too. So
two guys we're going to be playing this week.
Yeah, so there are a lot of players playing it, but like I said. What was the question? I forgot. We were talking.
Release date. When can we sink our teeth in?
Yeah. So the release date was. I've added it like April 29th on Steam, because Steam asked me like, this is the latest date if you wish to be on a Steam demo. And thinking about it, I said I'm gonna postpone it to September probably. Why I'm gonna postpone it? Because I felt like I need some core mechanics which will make this game different from anything else. Like, yeah, we have in MirrorForge inspection, we have running, we have inventory, we have all that stuff, jump scares, technological horror, but I need something which will make it quite different from any other horror game. And I came up with 3 mechanics. I can share them with you freely. It's not a secret. I already share them.
Please do. We're looking for new mechanics in the horror games, so please do.
So the first mechanic I had was, if you're running like in Outlast from an enemy, or I don't know, you're solving a puzzle. As I mentioned, MirrorForge has 2 or 3 dimensions, like alternate realities.
Yep.
You can use mirrors to travel between dimensions. So for example, monster chases you, you run to the mirror, click on the mirror, an effect pops up like a wormhole, and you're transported in the same place, like you're in the same room where you were before, but that room is vastly different than the previous place. Like if you remember, Silent Hill had like clean rooms and then had like industrial rooms, so in broken
like the medium has now with 2 dimensions of being
something
sort
like
of,
that.
Sort of, yeah.
But yeah, just this dark dimension in my game is more like in an internal twilight, constantly dark.
Yeah.
So there'll be like that place and the other place. And you, for example, like I said, if a monster chases you, can go through the portal. If you are locked in a room and you have a locked door, you can go to the other dimension, go past the open door, and
get back
use another mirror to get back. Yeah. So that mechanic, I felt like it would be great for the game. But the thing is, when I create this mechanic, it will affect every single level design. I'm going to have very specific plans on how to create those level designs and the game design and everything, because
and puzzles that are cross-dimension.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to think about that and plan all of that. The second mechanic I had in mind was you're going to get a device which will be, it's not going to be like a camera, like a photo camera.
Yeah.
It's going to be like something like that, like a device in your hand, which will, when you click on the mouse, it will blast like a light. And throughout the entire game, there'll be hidden dots of light, which when you interact with them using this device, like the explosion, these dots transform into forms of people made of light, which will tell you the backstory of what happened. And I call this moments frozen in time.
Amazing.
So like something happened, and here the memory was frozen in time and space. And you use this device like to cause a blast. The blast explodes, and these faint lights you see in the air suddenly turn into two people. For example, people arguing. And then it starts speech and subtitles and so on. And you also get Steam achievement progress.
Nice.
So I was thinking of those two mechanics. And the third one, the hardest probably will be, I'm working on an open world level at the moment. So not everything will be closed. It will be like a small town in a forest where you go down the town. And this will have to be carefully planned. And I'm going to have to think about how the players will feel, what do I want them to feel when they're playing that part, and to make it the most, how to say it, as much intuitive as possible, because as I've noticed, people usually easily get lost. You know?
Of course. Yeah.
So I need to make it as much as intuitive as possible, the navigation through the town and so on, and it will be foggy.
So Silent Hill all over again. So I'm very much looking forward for all these, cross-dimension traveling, because this is something that I actually liked in Singularity and those kind of, and the medium actually like that thing so much when it comes to, alternate world, when you need to have a cross puzzle that is cross-dimensional puzzle that you need to go back in time, and that was really amazing and something that made me generally want to play it even more. One thing that myself and probably a couple of us from the community have to ask you, when and should we be expecting co-op?
I don't think that Mirror Forge is designed to be co-op.
It's not co-opable.
Yeah, I mean, for co-op, the code is completely different. You need constant communication, replication on the server, and so on. So there's a lot to do. You're gonna have to go through the entire code to make it like that.
At least not in September. So it's not going to be in September.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe probably if the game succeeds, if it makes enough money, then why not? I can do it co-op. It could be interesting, for example, if you have one player in one dimension, the other player in the other dimension. So
cooperate,
Yeah, one is opening the lever while the other one is running from a monster. He holds the lever so the other one can pass. Yeah. That could be interesting, yeah.
So ideas, right?
Yeah, the only thing is multiplayer is much harder than single player.
It's client server and everything. It probably has nothing to do with just the core game and everything,
Yeah, not to mention bugs.
Bugs in multiplayer. Couple of possible bugs and players doing what they want. I can see that happening no matter who the developer is in. Developers with more people than your team. Well, generally, I wanted to first of all congratulate you on the kind of project that you're running. We are very much looking forward to streaming it on our channel. We're not going to spoil it for everyone, but we're definitely going to let our community know to support the project. Buy the game, as we really cherish these kind of developers that are not AAA developers. You're going to buy it anyway. Why should we work on it? So we're very much looking forward to Mirror Edge, to you releasing it. We're definitely going to put out a couple of messages of feedback.
But I can't release Mirror Edge. It's already released.
Oh, sorry, Mirror Edge. I think I missed it today at least 15 times.
Yeah, I heard you in the beginning like Mirror's Edge. By the way, I like that game. I'm gonna download it and play it.
So it's a good thing that but when you know one game with being that similar to it, just be prepared. Maybe I'm going to publish that I'm streaming Mirror's Edge, tag Mirror's Edge, but whenever you see Mirror's Edge being streamed on Bobbya Gaming, it's your game. Don't worry about it.
By the way, did you know how did I came up with Mirror Forge?
No.
I didn't. It wasn't my idea.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I had like a couple of names. I did research on Google Trends and Keyword Planner, checking out if the SEO works out. So when someone types it should pop up first on Google. And I created a survey and shared it, I think, on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, it was like that. And asked the community to vote which name do you think it's the best. And they chose Mirror Forge.
Really? So it was totally up to the community.
So I can say that this game, 60% is made by the community. Like, for example, the name of the main character, Thomas. Someone told me, like, this guy, this model looks like he could be a Thomas. And I was like, okay, sure.
So I mean, so we could be expecting some villain named Tony from Croatia in the DLC, at least. At least somewhere, you know, passing in the room. Passing in the room on the side.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding, of course. So thank you once more. It has been a great pleasure. I mean, it has been a great pleasure knowing you while you were working on Alan Sharp. That went as it did. So we're much looking forward to supporting your project with Mirror Forge. I said it, Forge, Mirror Forge. And we're definitely going to let our community know about the game. We're going to stream it on our channel. We're looking forward to that, as you might have seen with our enthusiasm with the horror games. This is why I was so interested to hear about the game, to see you actually progress, and I'm really happy for you to see that the entire internet is brewing about this game, and hopefully it's going to become a new Outlast when it comes to your ambitions and everything. So I know about the game, you know about the game. Let's introduce our audience to the game by letting them see the little teaser just for them. Are you okay with that? Let's go.
Hello there, I'm Bobby MystiveDev. I would love to say thank you for watching the teaser to the end. This game wouldn't have been possible without the horror community. And surprise, in the YouTube description below you'll find a link. Feel free to subscribe and become one of the early testers of the pre-alpha demo. Let's do it
head to be
together.
cut off in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I remember now. So in this teaser, I told the community, like, here's the name you chose, Mirror Forge.
Oh, no, I mean, this is the big reveal.
Yeah, this is the very first trailer. Like, if you see the game now, you will see the demo. It's vastly different than this one. There's a lot of icons everywhere and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't added a trailer for a long time.
Yeah, well, we are going to see in the demo and everything, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So, I mean, the game looks so creepy. I got chills just by looking at the trailer, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Please let us post it. Send us every news about the game. We're looking forward to it. Once more, we're so proud to have you as our first guest. Thank you. And my first thought after seeing this trailer was, you're such a cheerful and happy person. How do you come up with this kind of dark things? Because I literally got chills just by watching this trailer. It looks amazing, man, and I'm really happy for you. And I believe that you have our full support from our community in Croatia, and definitely something to look forward to in these couple of months to play on our streaming nights and horror nights. So
well, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony, for having me here. Hi to everyone, and thank you for being here, for watching us. and I hope you will like the demo. Feel free to DM me when you play the demo, when you stream it, so I will come by on the stream,
Definitely.
see how you're doing and so
Playing
on.
with developers.
Yeah, and thank you for the support. Like, even if you don't buy the game, wishlisting means a lot on Steam, because basically if you click wishlist, it boosts the Steam algorithm and shows it to people interested in such games. So I always, like, when people ask me, like, but I don't have them. There was one guy who said, like, I don't have the money to buy the game when it releases, and I was like, no worry, I will give it to you for free. But
just wishlist it.
Yeah, but click wishlist, because wishlist basically supercharges the algorithm on Steam.
Yeah, I mean, this is the least thing that we can do. I mean, I'm telling you personally, I'm definitely going to buy the game to share it with the community. The community is going to be able to see it. We're going to go over it together as we do with all of the games that we support. This is the first game that I actually know somebody working on it, so it's going to be our pleasure to support it. We became lovers of this kind of horrors in the last year or so, when we started to play this kind of horrors to creep ourselves out. So even if it sounds wrong, we're looking forward to it. So thank you once more. We're going to share the game. We're going to help as much as we can to spread the word about the game. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll see you on Mirror Forge 2 and 3, because we believe in you and your project. So thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you, and stay safe.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Hvala još jednom svima. Evo, imali smo znači intervju sa developerom koji je stvarno se odlučio na jedan veoma hrabar potez, krenut sam, napraviti taj potez da krene sam kao developer, napravi igru. I Mirror Forge stvarno, iako se radi o indie naslovu, je jedan naslov koji, mogli smo vidjeti iz trailera, stvarno izgleda na razini najnovih naslova, bez obzira što koristi Unreal Engine. Ja očekujem puno od ovog naslova, izgleda mi obećavajuće, zaigrat ćemo ga skupa na streamu. Ako imate kakva pitanja za Bobbya, svakako nam se javite, proslijedit ćemo ih njemu. Kada krenemo igrat, streamat ćemo zajedno s njima, zajedno s developerima, i definitivno, obzirom na trenutnu situaciju i sve, kako i cijelu gaming industriju preuzima nekakvi AAA naslovi koji su, možemo slobodno reći, pravljeni na taj način da se samo reproduciraju bez nekakvog posebnog žara i bez neke posebne želje da to postane stvarno jedan novi naslov. Indie developeri su netko koje treba i poticati, podržavati, tako da nam je svakako drago i u community vidjeti tu mogućnost da ljudi napred, da ljudi sami rade. A i mislim, kad gledamo u budućnost, jako je dobro vidjeti mogućnost da neko može doći danas na internetu, online, doći, potražiti, uložiti vrijeme i postati game developer, što je nešto, kad smo mi bili mlađi kao 90. 2000. to je bilo, ne mogu reći nemoguće, ali da vi imate mogućnost napraviti igru koja je na Steamu, objaviti je, imati nekakav revenue gdje imate taj pozitivan problem da vam dolazi porezna, to je nešto stvarno o čemu svi gameri sanjaju. Hvala svima koji ste bili tu, vidimo se u idućim epizodama LevelUp podcasta. Javite što možemo promijeniti, što vam se svidjelo, što nije. Ne morate biti blagi, prva nam je epizoda, svakako bit će ih tu još. 2 sata smo odradili, mislim da smo još puno mogli i tako se izuzetno radujemo idućim naslovima. Hvala vam puno, još jednom vidimo se i uživajte, pozdrav od ekipe LevelUp podcast.